Welcome back for the final 2 for 2 for the spring semester of 2020. It hasn't gone like we expected, but we are excited to share this last digital episode with you. I hope you are all doing well. And of course, we're looking forward to getting back together with you just as soon as possible. We've got a great episode tonight. You get to hear about the person who gets our 2 for 2 food together when we gather for a meal. So look forward to that interview. Of course, biscuits and gravy and great words from Mackenzie and music together as we celebrate as best we can, because we are still blessed. We've been given a great many blessings by God, and we celebrate them tonight with you. Thanks for joining us for 2 for 2 Rendezvous Digital Edition.
My God is strong, He'll do anything big or small. Nothing is impossible for a super wonderful God. Every day I can know God is always there for me and my family. Every day I can know greater is the one who lives inside me. Super big, super strong, super wonderful God. Super big, super strong, super wonderful God. Oh, oh, oh. Whoa, oh. Our God is strong. He'll do anything big or small. Nothing is impossible for a super wonderful God. Every day I can know God is always there for me and my family. Every day I can know greater is the one who lives inside me. Super big, super strong, super wonderful God. Super big, super strong, super wonderful God. Whoa, oh, 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 super big, super strong, super wonderful God. 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 Whoa, whoa, It's biscuit and gravy. Biscuit always comes with gravy. It's biscuit and gravy. It's the Biscuit and Gravy Show.
I'm Biscuits. And I'm Gravy. And we're Biscuits and Gravy Takeout. So, most of you probably already know this, but if not, this is the final week of 2 for 2. And I thought I would kick off the end of the semester by asking Gravy here some questions. So, what do you miss most about 2 for 2?
Well, I really miss the playground.
definitely something to miss. I think for me personally, not just because of the whole comfort food thing, I really miss being able to have dinner with our table families, and it's really interesting to be able to talk to someone you normally wouldn't talk to or go up and speak with, which I think is one of the best parts about 2 for 2 is its intergenerational aspect and how you can build relationships with people through worship or a meal. And with that, I think we'll let our final guest for this semester, Miss D. Ray, tell you more about our dinners we have.
I will miss you.
Roll it.
I'd like to hear you talk some about kind of the whole process of getting a meal together to serve at 2 for 2, because on Wednesday nights at Grandview Christian Church during the school semesters, the whole church, from the littlest littles to some of the oldest olds, get together and we do several different kinds of things. But one of the things that we make sure and do every week is we eat together. We believe as a church that there is something important and special that happens when we eat together. And we don't just eat kind of in different groups of friends. We structure and often assign the tables to kids so that the ages of kids and adults are spread out and mixed together. It's a way that we try and purposefully work on building up unlikely friendships around a table and around some good food. And Dee, that's what you are helping to make possible by your work in the kitchen and your work with your team. And it's one of my favorite parts about being at Grandview.
Mine too.
And could you take us through the kind of process that it takes to make that meal happen, from like menu idea to here's the plate on the table?
This year, when Beth and Carter and I sat down and went over things, we knocked around our memories of past 2 for 2 and information they've given us. The people who clean up at the end of the meal are actually very important because they let us know what's left over. And then we can adjust for the next time we might have either the same meal or we find out what's popular, what is not popular. And this semester, there were many revisions to the menu, things that we just felt maybe they're getting old and tired, or maybe it's not working quite as well and people don't really like this as much as we think. And I am very grateful to everyone for allowing me to introduce some other ideas, and hopefully we can all convene together, get together again and sit down and have meals so that we can have everybody trying the rest of this year's menu. If not, I'm looking forward to the semester after when we might be able to do that and eat together again. So it's not just the planning and the preparation, but it's also the cleanup is very important.
Just even my question about, what like to get it from the menu idea to the table. One of the things that you're pointing out is that's not the end of the meal. That's not the end of the story. The cleanup process is part of the whole process.
Yeah. And the shopping too, the behind the scenes on the shopping. The first thing I do when I come in is I check the menu. I look at what's sitting on the counter. I look in the fridge. I look in the freezer to see if I have all the ingredients. And every now and then there's a little bit of a freak out moment, and I'm texting Beth or Carter, did you get, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes it's in somebody's car on the way in. So it's always a little bit exciting where things pull together very often at the last moment in the preparation of the meal on the day that it happens. And sometimes there are things that come up that we have no control over. I never know what the lettuce is going to look like. Lettuce is not, it's not a tin can of something. It can be different every time. And salad is a very popular part of the menu. So I always say a prayer for some good romaine when I walk in the door. And I put it to soak immediately in one of the sinks in cold water. I cut off the base and stand them all up, all those heads of lettuce, in a big sink full of cold water so they kind of come alive again and, absorb that moisture, because sometimes the lettuce is looking kind of sickly.
Well, and there's so many little things like that. Care for the lettuce, to do more than just chop it up and get it out there, but to add an extra step to your process that isn't adding convenience, but yet communicates intent and a commitment to serving the best food that you can. I think that's delightful.
Thank you.
Hey, 2for2ers, you caught me in the middle of making dinner for me and my roommates. And it's funny because tonight we were talking about Miss D-Ray. Do you guys know what she does for us when we're in normal times and meeting together for 2for2? That's right. She cooks all of our meals. That's a lot of food to make for everyone, don't you think? Well, if it's okay with you tonight, I'm going to talk to you while I'm making dinner because I think that's fitting since we've been talking about food and eating together all semester long. I thought that for our last one, we'd talk while I fix food. One thing that really impresses me about Miss D-Ray is her ability to make us all food when there's so many of us that come to 2for2 on Wednesday nights. I mean, sometimes there's people there we don't even know are going to show up. And she has to figure out what all of us want to eat and how much food to make for everybody. I wonder if she ever worries if there's going to be enough. You know, there's a really interesting story in the Bible about a woman who didn't know she'd have enough food to feed somebody and how God does a miracle to make sure there's enough for people to eat. So I'm going to stick these in the oven, some sweet potatoes, and then I'm going to tell you that story. Okay, now that's done. We can talk about the widow at Zarephath. And you know what I'm going to do? Can you say Zarephath? Great job. So, the widow at Zarephath. Now, Elisha gets told by God, he's really, really hungry, and he gets told by God, okay, you're going to go to this widow at Zarephath. Now, a widow means that her husband has died. So she didn't have a lot of money, and she didn't have any way to make any more. So she doesn't have any money, she's really hungry, and so is Elijah. And Elisha shows up at her door and says, woman, I need you to make me some food. Now, can you imagine this? You don't have any money, you're trying to feed your family, and this guy shows up and says, I need food from you. Well, this woman says, you showed up at the worst time. I don't have enough oil to even make food for us for the rest of the week. I'm going to make myself and my son this little kind of pancake thing, and we're just going to die, I guess. There's nothing for us to eat. But Elisha, he's a prophet. He knows God. And he knows that in God's kingdom, there's always enough for people when we share, when we invite people in, when we try to eat together. So Elisha says, listen, God's got you. I promise you there's going to be enough oil. And when she goes to make them food, guess what? The jar is full. There's enough oil to last and more left over. I love this story because to me it says this. It says that in God's kingdom, if we have this hospitable imagination, if we're able to think outside the box and be creative with our hospitality and invite people in, God will provide. The world sometimes tells us there's not enough to last. But God says, I will make a way. There will be more than enough. There's a way to feed you and your friends. So in our last 2for2, our last chance to think about comfort food together, even though, of course, it won't be our last time to eat together. We eat every day, which is why we wanted to talk about food so much, because it's something we all do together. I think it's our chance to think about how often we think about food only for ourselves, when really food is something that we do all together, and we want to take a chance to think about the ways that God allows us to not only feed ourselves, but feed our family members, feed our friends, feed our communities, and how in the long run, that's a way that we can share the kingdom of God. Because like Elisha and the widow at Zarephath, he got to show her that in the kingdom of God there is never scarcity. There's always more than enough. So even in this time when we're separate from each other, we get to know that there will be a time when we're together again. And we'll get to share a meal together, maybe one that D-Ray cooks. And even though it seems like there's not a lot to go around now, we know that's not the truth in God's kingdom. So, 2for2ers, remember that even while we're separate, there are times of togetherness. There is enough to go around, and that in God's kingdom, we welcome one another. So, I just want you to be sure to remember that food is for together.
Well, thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the episode. There are a lot of people we need to thank tonight for all they've done to make this digital 2for2 rendezvous work. And I want to thank Brett for all the work he's done putting these videos together. I want to thank Biscuits and Gravy for doing great work as well. We have so many people we appreciate. Isaac Caraway, who put together the videos for the interviews with the comfort food volunteers. Nathan for doing the interviews, Nathan Kacharis, thank you for all you did to make this happen. A lot of people stepped in and did new things that they didn't anticipate doing because of what we've gone through. So bless you. We'll be back as soon as we can. Be very quiet. I've heard that there's been a sighting of one of the most elusive creatures on Earth out here in the woods. And I'm afraid he's going to consider me comfort food. But also I want to see him. I think I see him. I'm so scared. I think I found him. I saw where he went. And so I think we're going to get the first ever sighting. If you just pay attention here, I'll get out of the shot. Did you see that? That was awesome. Hey, hope you have a great summer. We'll be back with 2for2 in the fall. We'll miss you this summer. Hopefully we'll be back in full force, live and together. Be praying for that, if you would, please. Have a great summer.